Hey guys, it's Team from the Bankruptcy Club. I'm going to be talking about 1824 today. This is Jeremiah's copy. He just got it from Kickstarter. It is a reprint from the previous edition of 1824. It's by Lonnie. Oh, I'm going to get his last name wrong. Let's say Orgler. I'm just going to say Lonnie. If you haven't played one of his games before, it's a lot of building tracks, building good routes, and running trains, and not a lot of stock shenanigans. So let's run through the fun stuff on this one, and it features 5 tiers of companies. You've got your um, mountain railways, coal railways, pre-state railways, regional railways, and then eventually you get a state-run company. There's 3 of those. And there are 2 different kinds of trains. You're going to get regular trains, and you're going to get a G train, which is a coal train. It is a $12,000 bank and variable number of ORs. So here you got 1, 2, and 3, depending on the phase. It starts with kind of an interesting setup. It's not an auction, but it's like a draft where you're gonna go. You do a kind of like a once. It's not like a full snake. It's like a once back and then once forward and then in normal order. But each player is gonna pick one of these things here. So there's gonna be a number of mountain railways depending on the number of players you'd have. In our 3-player game, we had 4. There's the coal railways and then the 3 pre-state railways. And on a player's turn in the initial stock round, they just take one of these things and pay the cost for it. So the mountain railways, like there you go, 120 guilder dollars. I'm gonna say dollars. 120 bucks for one of those. And they will provide you a fixed income. I should have pointed it out while I was up there. $25 a turn, and then in phase 3 and 4, they will turn into a share of one of those colored companies you see at the bottom. The 4 coal railways, what you will do is they start at coal mines, 1, 2, 3, and 4, corresponding to the number, and each one is associated with a particular regional railway. So in this case, this is the blue one. I'm not even trying to say names. That's the blue company, which also has its headquarters right there, and there's the mine that's associated with it. So it's pretty close on each of these, and then that one there. So when you buy one of these, what you'll do is pay. There's a price up here. Those are your options for price. You can pay $120 to $200, and then whatever price you pay for it, you will spend 120 of it to buy start with a 1G train. So you get those together. But the reason that you pick any particular price is that you then turn that into the par value, not the par value, but the initial value of that company. So if I spend 180 on this coal railway, it'll end up with a 1G train, $60 in the treasury, and what did I say, 180, so we'll go to 90. Focus is always bad. There we go. So I'll go to 90. And then, you can be in any of this range here from 60 to 100 with the coal railways, all 4 of those. The other ones you've got here are the 3 pre-state railways. They have There's 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 1, 2. They have stations that they start at. So orange 1 starts here, and then orange 2, orange 3. There's purple 1, purple 2, and then gold 1 and 2 are both in Vienna. The number 1 company costs $240. There we go. And will be exchanged for the president's share of the orange company. The other 2 cost $120. 120. And then for the purple and gold, the number 1 costs $240, and the number 1 costs $240, and number 2 costs $120. All those, for each of these, the money goes into the company, and then it will use that to buy trains. All of these companies, the pre-Staatsbahn, the pre-state companies, and the coal companies, run like minor companies, which is they split the revenue half to the owning player and half to the treasury. So they will just continue to accrue money. They don't have a stock value. They just run for a while, and then eventually they close, whether you like it or not. And I'll cover that. After you go around and everyone has bought up all of these options here, or you've elected to pass, you then have options for a regular stock round. Anything that is not purchased is removed from the game. So, which is important for the coal companies because each of them is tied to a specific president's share. And normally that is how the president's shares are acquired, is through these coal companies. If one of these is not purchased, if no one purchases the blue company here, then you would take the president's share from the stock board where it is in the reserved spot, and you would place it back in the general stack. But there are spots here for all the reserved shares associated with minor companies. The red company does not have an associated minor, so it is not reserved, so it can be started as a regular company in the stock round. Companies float at 50% of shares purchased. They are capitalized based on, let's see, it actually says on the card, and they are slightly different depending on the type. So this blue one, 150% of it has been sold, and the coal company has been converted. It will get 8 times the current price plus the treasury of coal company number 1 into its treasury, along with the home station here in Prague and a couple of other tokens. The state railways get a different number. They get 7 times 120, which is this one gets 840 plus the treasuries of the 2 companies together. And orange gets 840, and this one gets 720. Because there's more shares, there's more miners associated with orange than there is with gold, so that's that. Red is the only one that works like a normal, like a regular, boring company, and it's just 10 times the market value when 50% of it is in players' hands. All transactions are done at current market value, and there is no bank pool. So on the board, I will carefully move back over here. So the board is the bank pool. It's also the IPO. This is where the shares are if they're not in players' hands. You can't sell a share if there are 50% of shares on this board, or if a company hasn't operated yet. So it's possible that in the first stock round you can buy shares of blue because the price was set at 90. You could buy a couple of shares and hang on to them. But until that company operates, they're just sitting in your portfolio, not doing anything, and you can't sell them because Blue hasn't operated. Additionally, there's more than 50% on the board. Oh, back there we go. Okay. So, once you do finally get to start running trains, you're going to have two types of trains. You got the G trains and the number trains. G train, you can't see that. There we go. So the way that G trains work, because in an operating round, the mountain companies will pay, then the coal companies run, then orange, then purple, then gold, then major companies in descending stock value. So the coal companies are the first companies that are going to run, and they're the ones that are going to pay out first. And what you're going to get is, let's say, we're going to have some of this, that. The G trains do not, they must start at a coal mine. We're going to pretend. And hope that I have, so there's double dits in this game, which means that, and they don't upgrade. So you have to figure out what everything is going to look like fairly early on, because if this gets placed like this, it's stuck like that for the rest of the game. It's just kind of, what you got to deal with. And there are dits everywhere. This board is rotten with dits. You're going to have G trains running from your home station here. They must run from a coal train. I'm sorry, a coal mine. Coal train must run from a coal mine, and it may include up to one additional large city and any number of dits. So in this case, it starts here. This counts as 0. The dit counts as 0, and the city counts as 1. So it runs for a hot $20, split 10 to the company and 10 to the owning player. But G trains, when they run to a coal mine, get this value printed up here on the board. For these two mines, it's 10, 10 at the beginning of the game and 40 later, and then these two, it's 20 and 60. That, in this case, this example, the $10 goes into the treasury of mining company number 2. And directly into the treasury doesn't count for revenue. So it just collects money. I'm sorry, when I said it ran for 20 earlier, I forgot the dit. So it runs for a total of 30. So this revenue would be not 20, it would have been 30. So you would have split 15 of the company. You would have put 15 in the company, and 15 to the player, plus an additional 10 to the company. So you're going to run G trains. They have to go to mines, and they just accumulate some money. I should say, this is important, that all companies that have slots for a train, so not the privates, but everything else, has to have a train. And the mining companies can only own and purchase G trains. And I'll get to purchasing trains here later. But major companies, any of the regional or state companies, or even the miners, they can own G trains and run them to mines. So if at some point, you've got the right token for the company out for this example. So if you've got the yellow company here, and it owns a G train, and let's say this is closed, it can run a G train from the mine to the station as well. That's fine, but it can't run a G train like this. You just can't do that. It's got to go to the mine. And like Vienna only goes on a very specific orientation on the board. So a G train cannot run this route. It does not include a mine. If you can hook a mine from here and go through that to get your station, and then also get to the big city, that's fine. And then you can pick up all these dits on the way. Those are just great. So where are we at on this? All right. Talk about the mergers, because at some point the only things that are going to be running are the regionals and the five regionals. Five regionals? 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5 regionals and 3 state railways. So when the first 3 is purchased, as you can maybe see on the bottom of that, it never wants to focus. That's good enough. It says 3 on the bottom. It says 3 and then 4 exclamation. As a stock action, starting in phase 3, you can exchange one of your mountain railways for a share of those companies at the bottom: yellow, black, blue, green, or red. No shares are reserved for these exchanges. So if you don't do it in phase 3, and then when you have to do it in phase 4, if that company is sold out, you just don't get anything, and your mountain railway is gone. So you're going to be exchanging those for shares. Starting in phase 3, as a stock action, you may close this company to get the president's share of the corresponding colored company. So I can close this and get the blue president share. I can do this in phase 4, or I have to do it in phase 5. So by phase 5, this is going to be gone, and I'm going to have the president's share of the blue company. Presumably, you will plan for this because you know what's happening. And you've also, maybe hypothetically, used these to get some more shares as well. That starts 4 of them. Again, red, which has a home base there, doesn't start that way. It starts like a normal company. The 3 pre-state railways close at different times. So the orange with 3 miners closes in the 4s, and it closes at the end of the operating round after the first 4 has been purchased. All 3 of these companies collapse together into a single company. You get all the treasuries, all the trains, and then whatever its capital is up there. 120 plus the treasuries. You get your tokens on those 3 boards, and then your tokens on your 3 stations. And this one gets a couple more, but they're expensive. They're $100. And you get to keep building. Purple closes with the first 5. And gold closes with the first 6. So at some point, you can take all of the mountain railways and throw them back in the box. So all the coal railways and throw them back in the box. And all the mountain railways and throw them back in the box. Because they're going to go away and you're going to exchange them for shares. And then this is a little funny thing here. Over here on the board, there's a little phase chart, so you can take your token. You can go from a stock round, then you can go to an operating round, or whatever. But the arrow goes clockwise, and the export train is at the wrong spot in the order. So you export a train at the end of the OR, not before the OR. So you can run it the opposite way, but then you're going against the arrow. What that means is that you're going to be going through trains. You're going to be moving forward whether you like it or not. So here's what's up with trains. Trains this is a thing. So you've got regular trains here, and then G trains on the outside. Okay. When it is time to purchase a train, you can buy any train that has been unlocked, which is the currently available regular train or the associated G train. So at the beginning of the game, you can buy a 2 or a 1G. Once the 2s are gone, that doesn't take, and then you can buy a 3. That doesn't remove the 1Gs. Once the 3s are gone, you can buy a 4, right? This is normal. But these remain. So the G trains stay. Even if all of these go away through exporting, which is taking them off the board and throwing them back in the box and possibly forcing a phase change, the Gs remain until they are purchased. They're one of the, each coal railway starts with a G train, so there's probably only going to be like 2 of these on the board. And they rust, the G trains rust only on other G trains. So you have, I gotta like figure out what it says, 3G, and then there's a red cross. There we go. 3G rusts the 1Gs, okay? But only 3Gs. Not 4s, not 6s or 8s, specifically the 3Gs. And the 2Gs are rusted by 4s, and 3s are rusted by 5s. The 4G and 5G are permanent. So it is possible that your major company ends up running 1 or more G trains to mines collecting money into its treasury. That is the only way money gets into the treasuries without withholding. Because you can only full pay or withhold. There is no half paying. There is no payment of shares held on the bank board. None of that. So G trains are important because they put money in your company. When it is time to purchase a train, and you will be purchasing many trains, you can exchange your existing train on a company. In this case, let's say I have a 2G. I can trade it into the bank for the next most powerful type of available train. So all the 2s are gone, and I have a 2 on a company. I can trade that in if there's a 3 available and pay this smaller number, so 140. I can save $40 by trading in a 2. And then later, I can trade in that 3, assuming that these are all gone, to buy a 4 for 190 instead of 280. You cannot trade in multiple trains together for a larger discount. You also cannot trade in a 2 to buy a 4, or a 4 to buy a 6, or a 6 to buy an 8. It must be the next one in the stack. So it is possible, through a combination of exporting and train rush, that you will have a 3, not have the opportunity to buy a 4, and then unable to trade it in for a 5. And then those are gone, and now you're looking at buying a 6 and rusting your own 3s. Okay. The same thing, you can do that with the G trains as well. They have the reduced cost there on the side. It's a lot of trains, but you'll burn through the important ones. They don't turn permanent until the 6s. There's only a couple 8s, but then I believe it says there's infinite 10s. But at $1,000, that's a steep price. Might be able to afford one late game with a par value of 120. I'm sorry, 100. Par value of 100. That's 100. This is reserved for the state railways only. They will all start at 120. The board itself, like I said, is just rotten with dits. They're everywhere. They just are. A ton of them. There's rivers. There's mountains. Mountains are not especially expensive. They're like $40. Rivers are 20. The game is all about running. It's about building track. It's about building good routes and running the best trains you can. Vienna and Budapest are going to be your big cities. They both upgrade into grays with the highest value. Don't expect to be spending a lot of time doing stuff on the board because there's no par value per se. Like there's no IPO price. Okay, everything's always done at current market value. So a company starts at 100 and it runs for a couple turns. You can buy for 120, and then you can sell for 120. But every time you sell a block of stocks, it only goes down one step. So if I'm at 120 and I want to cash out, I sell 4 stocks. I get $480, and it goes down to 110. It's not going to be. You can't tank stock values in this one. There's no yellow area to play with going above cert limits. It is very much a run good game and timing when to do train transitions and how to shuffle those. So if you're looking for like a financial game, this is not going to be it. If you're looking for an operations game, you can operate real good. You can do real good operations in this one. And if you like Lonnie's games, you probably already know about it. You probably already have it. But that is 1824.